Hi everybody, welcome from Tokyo, Japan, where I'm sitting. I guess there's people from all around the world. I'm really excited to be able to talk to you a little bit about this, especially within the framework of the future of data collection, which is what this topic is on, because I think that we're really into an area where we're going to have to really start to think about what it is to be in research. And so many of us who have been in research, whether on the client side or on the agency side, often see the challenge that big data and machine learning and AI is bringing towards us. So I want to basically walk us through that. So the first thing I wanted to be able to say is that every industry has gone through its Kodak moment, including Kodak, of course. And this is the idea that the industry is changing, and it will be the things that were the competitive advantage of the past, the things that you have developed your business on, will perhaps vanish overnight. We all know brand stories like BlackBerry and even Nokia that basically have challenged, whether it's VHS or Beta or even CDs, which we all know our children will not know in the future. But in our today's world, things are changing and they will evolve, and that's the same with our industry. And I think that the one thing that we've got to really think about right now is that although things are changing, if we can just focus on what is not changing. And I love this photograph. This photograph is a photograph of the Eiffel Tower, and there's somebody holding it. They're taken in the 1920s. And then in the background is a photograph that's been taken, in the year 2000 with a smartphone. If we just focus on the idea that people go to the Eiffel Tower to take a photograph, that hasn't changed. To go to experience it, to go and take that photograph. How it is being done has changed, but the objective has not. And so that is really where we need to focus on, is what has not changed, and that will get us through to be able to staying relevant as long as we're understanding that the objectives have not changed. And when we look at that, I look at these icons, and the one on the left there, the telephone. I don't think my children will know what that is in the future, because it's an icon that they've never really come across, whether it's for the movies or taxis or maps, and what those icons look like now. But it's not just a change in a look, it's actually a paradigm shift. When we think about the icon there on the left for phones, I don't know that I actually use my phone to talk to my kids. We text each other and then quote unquote talk, but that's a paradigm shift in how we're communicating. That Uber is actually a paradigm shift in the way that taxi companies work, that you don't actually have to own assets, or that Netflix is a paradigm shift in how that you need to watch or can watch movies and be engaged with things. So it's not just that a look is happening, it's that a paradigm shift is happening, and we need to be thinking about that. And that's not necessarily our enemy. It's about basically saying, what is it that the objectives are the same within that paradigm shift? The objectives are still communication. The objectives are still watching entertainment. The objectives are still getting from A to B. It's just the how that is changing. So what I really want to cover for you quickly is the 5 things that I've learned over the last 6 or so months, where I was working with Machine Vantage and AI and machine learning company that had taught me to reframe the way that I've been thinking about AI, machine learning, and in particular big data. So I'm going to run you through these 5 quick learnings. So what really has changed, the first thing that I've learned, is that data creation is no longer the need it once was. We as researchers have prided ourselves on being able to create questionnaires and create solid, robust structures to be able to collect data. The reality is that the consumer is creating that data for us every day, whether it's them self-creating it by putting up their thoughts on SNS and hashtags, whether it's creating that purchase data for us by clicking on banners and deciding to click on a banner but not to buy, or click all the way through to buy, and of course we have cookies. So the data itself is no longer needed to be created because it's there. And so the question really is if we were in a world where we said we were no longer going to pay for data creation, so we're not going to pay for surveys to be done because the data is already there, how would we get the data to do our usage and attitude, to do our brand tracking, to do our pricing, to do our home use tests, and do our ad awareness? I did this exercise with my team recently. We were talking about brand tracking, and if we couldn't afford to do a brand tracking survey, then how would we get that information? And it became patently clear that if we could basically train the consumers the way that we wanted them to do, to hashtag something, then we could actually train to see if they're looking nicely or not at our brands. So it's about thinking a little bit differently about how we're going to interact with that future of data collection. And the reality is that right now, the second learning that I've had is that data is no longer big, it's actually obese. And it's a lot of data. And one thing that we're really good at as researchers, and this is the second learning that I've had, is that we're actually really good at sorting through data. Our new role is moving from creating data to ensuring its rigor. Because the reality is that the data that is being created, not all of it is clean and not all of it is perfect. I love this picture of this woman. She's blowing on the wheat to clear the wheat from the chaff. And that's exactly what we are good at as researchers, to understand dirty data, to be able to clean it up. So it's about reapplying our skills that we've always had into this new role. And therefore, I see us as being a very valuable part in the big data equation as researchers. So when we get to the clean data, and then we start to want to use machine learning and AI to be able to understand what's going on, the third big learning for me is that it really starts with the right question. And I've got a little bit of a story that I want to tell that can perhaps clarify this for you. Last summer, I was given a guinea pig to take care of for a friend who was moving, and I needed to take care of the guinea pig. And I've never taken care of a guinea pig in my life, so I basically Googled how to take care of a guinea pig. What does a guinea pig eat? What does a guinea pig drink? What kind of house do they need to live in? And I Googled my way through, asking Google and big data all the questions. Long story short, the guinea pig died. And when we got to this point with the vet basically said to me, well, guinea pigs are lonely animals and they generally should be kept as pairs. And actually, there's a law in Switzerland that says, apparently, that you can't keep guinea pigs as a single, they must be kept as pairs. And they like routines, and any big changes in routines stresses them and can cause a lot of stress on them. I didn't know this. I knew this afterwards because I Googled it, and I was like, oh, actually that's true. And so what I found out is that big data is only as good as the question that you are asking it. And so this is where we also add value, and that where machine learning and AI is actually our friend, not our foe, is that machine learning and AI needs us. They need us as researchers and experts in being able to determine what the right business questions are to help it write those questions. And that's because we really do know how to identify the real issues in the questions. And so that's one of the key learnings that I would take away, is really for us to leverage that strength. And so all of the departments, or many of the tools that are being used, or all of the departments that I work in, basically have social listening tools. But social listening is much more powerful when we tell it what to listen for. And I think that that's a key thing, rather than just generically listening to the chatter and the noise that's going on, that we as experts can help identify what it is that we're listening for. So that's really our new role, is to move from designing questionnaires, which was back to my previous point, is that we don't actually have to design questionnaires as much anymore, because we don't have to design questionnaires to get the data, but to designing algorithm guidelines. So question guidelines that will help to program the algorithms to go search for things. So that for me is the paradigm shift in the future of data collection, and our role in it is one of the big learnings. And what's also amazing that I found after working with Machine Vantage and the team is that machines can automate and provide speed. So if we're going through a project and we want to be able to review and do desk research, we basically have experts and people are going through websites and they're going through mountains of documents. We may be searching through popular culture to see what the latest trends are, whether it's in music or whether it's in movies or what it might be, or going through all the SNS material. I worked on a few projects where basically the machine was able to go through something like 85,000 songs or through 3 million tweets in 48 hours. That is not humanly possible. And that is basically where the machines can automate a very big task and provide speed for us. And what's also really great about it is that machines don't have biases. So machines are not automatically filtering to say, I'm not going to look at this or I'm not going to look at that. They will basically go through and look at everything and provide the information back. Some of the reports that we received when we were doing deep dives into certain topics, there were comments from the reports with like, oh, I never really thought of that being connected to the business question that we'd asked. But when you think about it, it's like that's actually on the edge and it's very interesting. And the reason you're able to get to that edge is because we haven't pre-filtered it by our own knowledge and decided what areas we're going to look in. The machine can, with the speed, go and look in all the nooks and crannies and come back with its findings. The other thing too, though, is that machines are still learning the nuances of language. So sometimes they bring back things which are a bit unusual. And that's when humans come back in to basically say whether we believe that that's really interesting or is that the machines are not quite fully understanding yet the nuances of language. It's getting much better, I must say. So those are my top 5 learnings, but I'd like to sort of wrap up the next couple of slides to say why I think it's not our enemy, but actually our friend, is that we're moving from being the industry that's creating the data and finding the information and allowing that data to be created and the information and the clustering to happen through the machines to now actually doing the added value piece of turning that into knowledge and wisdom or the why or what should we do now. And these are skills that we as insights professionals have in bucket loads. And so we're actually able to now spend a lot more time focusing on the things that we're actually really good at and that are the valuable pieces of the equation for our business partners. So it's an exciting time. It's just to give you an example of my experience with the automation of semiotics. So what basically this happened was we had to start with a human element. So that was us defining what the problem was, what the challenge was. Remember I said about getting the right question. So we basically designed and gave input to the algorithm so that the machine could then go and collect the information, and it did it at an expedited time through a whole bunch of stuff. So if you imagine going what a semiotics project is, where it's going through looking at symbols and codes for years of data, you're able to do that very quickly with the machine. It comes back and it starts to find patterns, and the biases are limited, and it brings back clusters of interesting things. And that's when the humans get back involved again, interpreting the outputs. And we have more time for insights because the data collection piece has actually been shortened. So in short, the future of data collection is changing. I see that machine learning and AI is actually just this wonderful enabler to us as an industry to let us focus on the things which are really adding value, which is the interpreting of the outputs and more time for the insights for impact. So that's really all I had to say. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand over for questions if there are questions. Oh, sorry, that's the last slide, which is if we keep on fighting the old, we won't get anywhere. We should spend much more time on building and focusing on building the new paradigm. So let's not think about going back to taxis and embrace the world of Uber and build the new. So thank you.